Greetings, everyone! It is I, Tantus Dracovin, your Lord and Emperor here at the Dracovin Empire, and once again, welcome. We're going to be talking about tabletop, in particular, Pathfinder lore today. So I hope you're ready to enjoy and come on me with this journey of lore diving that I do a lot of. But, if you're joining me, of course, live on Twitch, hello, Twitch. Nice to see you always. Glad you're here. Remember, follow is always good. Good knowledge supporting. If you're joining me later on YouTube, hey YouTube, love you that you're always there for me, that you're kind of that solid, check things out later on kind of group. Like, follow, subscribe, comment on either side of them. Have you played this particular type of Geniekin? Because it's a new one we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the Ardande. The Ardande is one that's very interesting because it has been introduced as of last year. Yeah. So that's what we're getting into. If you've seen some of, I've been doing a couple videos on Geniekin, going over the different types of them. And this is a new one that we'll discuss. And because it is so new, there is only one book which discusses it. So let me set up for that so we can get into the actual what we do here. And I'll show you the book here. The Rage of Elements. So if you want to look into a little bit more information about them, the mechanics on playing them, this is what I recommend. Now, I'll show you a picture here of our good friends, the Ardande, and talk to you about who they are, because they are Geniekin that are direct descendants from mortals and beings from the elemental plane of wood. Wood elementals, Khazars, dryads, forest dragons. Some were also born to parents who have a very powerful influence of energies of the plane of wood, or perhaps the first world, because there are some wood-like fae. Just to give a little bit of background of information, the plane of wood is one of the elemental planes in between air and water. It's recently reopened to the material plane. Basically, it had been cut off from the material plane for an unspecified period of time, and now if you're in Golarion, you can connect up with the plane of wood. But it's had some results, and a resurgence of the Ardande is a result of that. They had kind of, disappeared, and now they're back. If you see an Ardande, though, they have this kind of physical traits that resemble trees or plants: green skin, brown skin, gray or mossy bark, not wood features on their bodies. Their hairs are unique and plant-like, some having vines or leafy beards. They smell of lush plant growths, dewy grass, wildflowers, moss. Some have more detailed features, such as nails made of amber or bark, leaves or petals on their skin, resinous rot that sheds spores. Their appendages sometimes are thinner or more branch-like. If they're descended from wood scamps, they're shorter and bushier than most of their parentage and closer resemble leshies or conrasus. So, here we go. Because they are a newer being, too, and because their elemental nature is, honestly speaking, very obvious. Where fire, earth, water, air, it can kind of be obvious, but it also can kind of be a little bit more passed off sometimes. Plant, wood, is a little harder. So, many Ardandes will feel kind of outside of their lineage, will turn towards adventuring to go out and explore, to kind of connect up. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the plane of wood side of things, because that's important here too, because that also links up to certain things. So yeah, plane of wood, it's a recent reemergence. So there are a few Ardandes that exist to form anything of the side or culture of their own outside of the plane of wood, where there are some individuals. I don't know, because it's half both mammal or mammalian kind of type creature, half plant, as much as probably living wood you can kind of use. Not very good. most Ardande are in smaller families within larger communities. But there are two major families that do exist, descended from one of the forest dragons, and they live in TNZ. And there are some families that are there from interacting with Fae in Arcadia. Because remember, Fae, like dryads, can give birth to Ardandes, because those, though they are children of the first world, they are connected to the plane of wood and trees and stuff like that. So, yeah. Those few Ardandes that were on Golarion before the plane of wood existed could trace their lineages to forest dragons and Fae, who still had that spark of elemental wood. Or to perhaps Kizhardids that were stranded on Golarion before the dawn of mortal life on the planet. So very, very ancient time periods there. Because most of the time, with this disconnection to the plane of wood, the lineages kind of died out. Ardande children disappeared. But now, with this connection to the plane of wood back, the bloodlines of some of these ancient bloodlines are resurging. And some have rediscovered their heritages. And a lot of these people that are like now like being born or rediscovered rediscovering their planar heritage are exploring the plane of wood. It's sort of like, whoa, cool, this place that's been cut off from us for so long. Neat, let's check it out. Ardandes on Golarion relate to nature deities if they follow any like Gozra, the Green Mother, or Skyka, the Elemental Lords. Of course, the Elemental Lords of Wood, Shume and Verily Lorn in particular. Some worship the Green Men of the Leshies, or follow the Green Faith of Druids. If those are influenced by evil, view destruction, disease, and rot as part of the natural order and renewal, and follow deities that exemplify those aspects like Grotus or Gotha. And there are those that venerate the Demon Lord Terrazer, too. So there are three main lineages of Ardandes, which reflect kind of the place or nature of their origins. Amber souls, who embody the oils, fragrances, and resins of plants and are descended from Kizards. Molder souls, who embody decay and decomposition of plants and originate from the dark blight southern fangwood. Spring souls, who embody blossoms, fruits, seeds, and plants and originate from the Grunger forest and the land of Linarkings. So those are your main lineages. And it's not to say that there aren't Ardande outside of the material plane. They were still common in the plane of wood. Though the plane of wood had been cut off, that mortal blood still was within it. And there were some still within the First World. Remember, First World, we have Dryads. And now has resurged in the universe as a whole, the multiverse as a whole. And yeah, with this resurgence, becoming in different places, you will find, in places outside of Golarion, they do also find themselves outsiders. But a lot of these, like, Ardande that are the planar ones, beings from the First World, or the Plane of Wood, now with this resurgence have begun to reconnect, especially with their Golarion ones, or try to. Because, again, it's that same thing of, like, the Golarion Ardande are connecting to the Plane of Wood. The Ardande of the Plane of Wood are connecting to the Golarion Ardande, back and forth, so that they're kind of beginning to understand each other a little bit more and reconnect this essence of the Plane of Wood is back. But, yeah, that's the Ardande. There's a lot about them, because, again, they are technically not a newer Geniekin, elemental blood, a planar scion, but they are one that... Oh, I forgot to switch pictures. I'll switch the pictures here from the pictures. I forgot to switch pictures here. There's a goblin Ardande. Because again, like, they can connect up with different humanoids to be there, depending on what they are. And yeah, it's interesting to think that there are a lot of different beings that can give it. Forest dragons, one of the Imperial dragons, dryads themselves, the beings bonded to trees. They're very interesting beings, too, because, like, unlike a Leshy or a Konratsu, who are very much so plant, they are part plant, which is an unusual thing. They're kind of in between plant and not plant. And it makes for an interesting component of their physiology, of their being. Interesting place that they put them, because as much as like having the general elements in your body, there are things that kind of manipulate that, change that. There are elemental beings, you know. There's a very magical nature to this. With the elemental plane of wood, it's a very natural nature to it, almost. Which makes it kind of even stand out even amongst those elements and the elemental planes. Just a little bit. A very interesting kind of standout point in time. And it's interesting to see that we have now 6 elemental planes, at least as described as the Rage of Elements book. And their connections to each other and connections to the material plane are really interesting. You know, the multiverse of planes in Golarion is a very interesting one, and they deal with it very directly because they're part of something that was, honestly, in a weird way, disconnected from the multiverse. Think about that. Your origin point, until recently, was disconnected from the overall multiverse and now is back in it? What the hell does that mean? Why does that happen? Who knows? There's so many questions that relate to their origin and the connections things that would that make them an interesting character beyond the fact that they are this interesting thing that it could be that this was a bloodline deep in your ancestry and all of a sudden, hey, the plane of wood back, it's resurged, you know? It's back and it's in you now. A resurgence of elemental power. Anyway. It's interesting. Ardande. And you know, it's a thing to consider if you're looking at a Geniekin as something a little bit different and more interesting. I think that'll be it for today. We'll keep it there, keep it short, keep it simple, keep it nice and good here with introducing a Geniekin, especially one that's very new. The Rage of Elements book was at least last year, so if you're looking into it, it is a book that is very, very, very new. And it'll tell you about a lot of the Geniekins at this point. So I definitely recommend it if you're looking at adding them. That's a great place to start. I gave my shout-outs to various locations if you're in. Remember, I have social media, Discord, and Twitter. Remember those comments. If you're interested in playing an Ardande, or you've played one already, you could have played one last year, let me know in the comments. Let me know about that. And, yeah. If you want to see tabletop stuff live on Twitch, it's Tuesdays, Thursdays, early afternoon, usually between 1 and 2. Saturdays around 11 o'clock. The Pathfinder stuff is on Thursdays. I have Crimson Queen, a live show, Pathfinder 1st Edition at 9 p.m. EST on Wednesdays, and discussing tabletop on Saturdays around 6 p.m., where we talk about the tabletop news of the week and deeper discussions into tabletop as a whole. That's the big things I have to shout out. All those things go up on YouTube later on, so if you just love watching on YouTube, you can check it out there. But, you know, usually a couple days afterwards, you can always join me live, too. Anyway, until this next time, though, I bid all of you out there farewell.